They stepped onto the platform. Oric handed his torch over to Derek before moving to the heavy wooden brake wheel mounted at the corner, resting a hand on the lever. "Guess that makes me the one keeping us from falling to our deaths," he said with a wide grin, giving the lever an experimental tug. "Comforting," Eldon muttered. The creak of aged wood and the groan of tightened rope were the only sounds for many long moments before Helmet broke the silence. Reminds me of home. Spent too much time with your lot. Miss the old days of being in the stone." Derek chuckled. "This rickety old thing is making you homesick? You dwarves are something else." The dwarf grinned. "Aye, that we are. But it's nae." He didn't get to finish what he was saying. The lift jolted. Everyone looked at each other. Oric quickly pressed the brake wheel, halting their descent. "What was that?" he asked, a slight edge of concern in his voice. Everyone turned to Helmet with questioning looks. "How should me know?" the dwarf said. "Me's only ever ridden the damn thing, never built one." A loud snap and another sudden jolt dropped the platform a few inches. Eldon looked up toward where the sound had come from. "That," he said, pointing, "did not sound good." He looked back at the others. "Or feel good," Oric added. Derek leaned to peer over the edge of the platform, trying to gauge how far they were from the bottom. "I can't see it," he said, pulling back. "No clue how high we are." Helmet sniffed the air and walked over to the edge, running his hand along the stone. "Say we're about 20 feet above the floor below." "How could you know that?" "Just by sniffing the air," Oric asked, skeptical curiosity written across his face. The dwarf ran a hand up and down his own body. "Dwarf," he said, as if that answered everything. Another snap came and a bigger drop with it. One of the ropes holding the platform gave way entirely, falling and coiling onto the wood where they stood. That was most certainly not good, Eldon said, grabbing onto Oric to keep his footing. Helmet picked up the severed rope and looked it over. "The little buggers cut it," he said, dropping it and looking up toward where it had come from. Derek moved over and picked up the rope as well, examining the cut end. "Let's hope this is the only one they got to." Eldon looked over at him. "Doubtful, but maybe we should get down." And slowly, he glanced over to the big man. "Oric?" The red-bearded knight gave him a confident smile. "Do me best," he said, slowly easing the pressure off the brake wheel. It had only gone down about 5 feet when another snap echoed above them, and the platform fell out from under their feet entirely. The drop was sudden, and the stop even more so. They hit the ground hard, landing flat on their backs as their feet were knocked out from beneath them. Each took a moment to catch the breath that had been knocked from their lungs. In the chaos of the fall, Derek's torch had gone out entirely. Eldon's had been knocked from his grip. They watched helplessly as it tumbled into the darkness of a side passage, its light bouncing wildly before finally settling somewhere out of sight, now reduced to a faint, distant flicker against the stone. Finally, Helmet grumbled, "Me really hates goblins," and rose slowly to his feet. Eldon got up as well, looking around at the near darkness. "I suppose it could have been worse. We could have fallen when we first got on." Derek pulled himself up too, his eyes straining uselessly upward in the dark shaft above them. I think it is worse. How in the hells are we getting back up?" Eldon looked up into the dim light as well. "I think that is a later problem. I'm pretty sure the goblins know we're here. His eyes moved from the darkness above to the flickering torch in the distance. I think we have more pressing problems than getting back up. He moved off to retrieve his wayward torch. Helmet went with him, but kept walking past as the knight bent to pick it up. Aye, miners aren't dumb. They got to be having another way out. He moved into the darkness alone. The three men stood there looking at the dark space he had just disappeared into. Derek retrieved his own fallen torch and relit it from Eldon's. A few minutes passed before the dwarf appeared again, just at the edge of the torchlight. Don't be seeing any of the nasty little buggers, he said in a low voice. But that don't mean they aren't hiding in the dark. He motioned with one bladed hand. This way. Come on, follow me. He turned and vanished back into the darkness without waiting to see if they would. Eldon stretched his arm over his head and winced. I'm getting too old for this. Derek chuckled. We're about the same age, so if you're getting too old, I guess we all are. He slapped the older knight on his sore shoulder as he walked past. Oric followed behind. Don't worry, fellas. Well, one day we'll all retire and sit our old arses in a bar, telling stories of these glory days. He gave Eldon the same slap on the shoulder as Derek had. Eldon winced again, rotating his shoulder. Not me. After I'm done with all this, I'm going to find a wife and settle down. But I'll come visit you at the bar. He fell in step behind them. Derek looked back over his shoulder. No wife for me. I'm a knight, and most likely, I'll die a knight. Helmet led them down the low passage, staying just at the edge of the torchlight. From what we understand, where the tunnel sappers were working is at the end of this passage. There be half a dozen either shafts leading off it. But lucky us, we didn't have to figure out which one to follow. The three men followed, keeping the dwarf just in sight. The tunnel rose gently, and at the top of the rise, Helmet held up a bladed hand, signaling them to stop. They did. You smell that? He asked, not looking back. The three knights took in deep breaths through their nose, then looked at one another with matching disgust. Yeah, smells like shite, Oric said, pinching his nose between his leather-clad fingers. The dwarf turned back to them. Nay, not that. It's the... He shook his head and muttered a curse under his breath. Sorry, lads. Forget that your lot didn't have the noses we dwarves had. He paused. Nay, the gas. Dangerous stuff. They looked from one another. Can we hold our breaths to get past it? Eldon asked, looking back at the dwarf. Helmet scratched his beard with his bladed gauntlet. May help. That's not the biggest problem. He nodded towards the torches. It's them. One we sparking. He made a small motion with his hand. Poof! The three men looked at each other again. Can't travel the passage in the dark, Derek said, turning back to Helmet. Right? The dwarf shrugged. There'd be no other way, unless you got magic light. He paused, thinking it through. Here's what we do. You tie a rope around yourselves, and me leads you through. May take a while, but better than blowing up. The three men shrugged and returned. Derek pulled a length of rope from his pack, and they tied it around themselves. Just don't go too fast, Derek said as Helmet came down the line and took the rope. Dinna you be worrying. Keep you safe as three babes, the dwarf said with a wide grin, turning and heading back up the passage, leash in hand. The two men snuffed out their torches, plunging the tunnel into complete darkness. The three of them ran their hands along the wall, taking slow, dragging footsteps forward, following blindly after the dwarf. Helmet led them slowly up the gentle, rising passage. the men stumbling right behind. "Methinks the rise of the shaft is what's making the gases gather. So me hopes is once we start heading back down, we should be fine," he said. Eldon stumbled a step. "My head is getting light," he said, putting a gloved hand to his armored head. Derek called back to him, "Same. You sure this gas isn't going to kill us?" he asked the dwarf. Helmet shrugged and remembered they couldn't see him. "Don't know rightly. Methinks it all depends on how long you be in it." Ort coughed from nowhere. "Then put some step into your piece and get us out of here." How long they stumbled through the dark, the three men couldn't have said. They just followed the rope's tug, pulling them forward, but they knew they were drawing closer to something as the smell grew nearly unbearable. The rope stopped pulling and they all halted. "What is it?" Eldon asked the darkness. "Side passage." The dwarf's voice came back out of it. "Give me a sec to check it out." The men stood there motionless for a few moments. "Found where the smell and the gas be coming from," Helmet said. "The goblins have been putting their waste down the passage. Food, shite, and all kinds of foul stuff." "Well, that sounds lovely. Glad we can't see it," Derek said with sarcastic mirth. Helmet chuckled. "You do know the half of it. Could be so much worse. They could have a shite eater in that pile." "A what?" Oric asked. "A shite eater," Helmet replied casually and started leading them away. "Do we really want to know?" Eldon asked as the rope tugged him along. "Probably not,"